Are you ready to harness your own inner wisdom, your own inner essence of your cyclical nature, and start ditching the hustle and the grind and the forcing and the ways that you think you should be working and start working like a goddamn woman? That's what we're going to dive into today. Hello, my loves, and welcome back to the Essence Show and Podcast. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for tuning in this week for this week's episode. We are going to dive into how to work like a woman. Okay. There's a lot of information out there about your cycles, how to tap into your cycle syncing, your cyclical nature for, feeling better, having more energy, being able to plan your food, manage your hormones, regulate all of that really good stuff. But here we go on a little bit of a different path, and we're actually diving into how to work together with your cycles for success. And this surpasses solely productivity. So, of course, a lot of people are also talking about that, which, of course, we're talking about here as well. But this is so much more than just productivity. This is actually how do you work in the way that is most aligned with you, with your body, with your inner cycles, with your nature, with your values for what you want to be creating in your life, and actually start showing up in alignment with your inner cycles in order to do that. And we're setting up a system here. This is a framework. This is a strategy for how you create success. So we can ditch all of those like old calendar systems. We can ditch all of the reverse timeline engineering bullshit about what you think you need to do to actually work towards your goals. And this is going to be your new pathway to creating success that I call sacred success. So it's not just any kind of success. It's not just having something to check it off the list or to get it, but it's actually success that is aligned with your deeper purpose, with your soul. It feels really good. It's giving you the kind of lifestyle that you want. So your work style is actually supporting your lifestyle. And that is why we call it sacred success. So before I dive into all of that goodness, let me introduce myself. I'm Olivia Heine. I am your Flow CEO bestie, your freedom lifestyle curator, and your NLP and sacred success coach. And I'm here talking about all this stuff because I went through this entire journey myself. I come from the most type A perfectionist, overachiever, wanting to like micromanage and control everything. And I really had to go through a huge, massive journey to release my tight grip on needing to do this controlling, micromanaging thing with my life, because it was actually creating me it was actually keeping me in a lot of toxic cycles. It was keeping me away from the kind of life I wanted to be living. And it was also blocking me from creating the success that I wanted. I wasn't able to achieve my goals because I kept falling into cycles of burnout or sabotaging myself from the things that I really wanted, or really just feeling like things were so freaking hard all the damn time. And that is just not the purpose of moving through and creating things in your life. Yes, they're challenging. Yes, it asks you to expand out of your comfort zone and grow. And you often have to look at things like old trauma and things that you believe about success and why you believe them. And you're really going into your past for that. And that's growth. That's putting you in the stretch zone, but it's never meant to feel like it's killing you inside, right? There's a difference there. So when I uncovered cyclical living, everything started to change. And that is why I have really alchemized this wisdom and this knowledge, which has existed for hundreds of thousands of years. And so many incredible women and people and humans in this world are talking about it. But I, like I said, took it that step further and alchemized it into how do we actually apply this to goal setting? How do we apply this to creating success and aligning ourselves with, again, not only the success that we want, but a lifestyle that we also desire to have, and that those two things can actually go hand in hand when we don't need to be sacrificing ourselves, our well-being, our energy for our success, or grind it out in order to achieve that goal. Does that sound good to you? Are you like, ooh, yeah, like I like this vibe. Like I'm not really sure about it. Maybe you're new to all of this, and that's totally fine. I'm happy that you're here, that you're opening your mind to it. But doesn't it feel good? You're like, yeah, okay, there's another way. Like if things haven't been working up until this point, there's a reason for it. It is not my fault. And I'm here to validate you in that. It is not your fault. Okay. So are you ready to work like a woman? And I want to clarify here, like this is women's, right? So women, humans with wombs, okay? And this is important because this comes down to a science. And the science is essentially why this traditional 9 to 5 isn't actually working for you. And the science behind this is that men have a hormonal cycle that lasts 24 hours and repeats every 24 hours with their testosterone levels rising and falling. And we as women have a hormonal cycle that lasts 28 days approximately with the hormones progesterone and estrogen, okay? So when we look at that and we look at the way that our society is set up to function and the way that we have been conditioned to work, which means waking up every morning, getting to the office by 9, working until 5 or 6 or 7 or even later, and then waking up the next day and doing it all again. And there's an expectation within this 9 to 5 work structure that every single day you wake up with the same level of productivity, ready to harness the day the exact same way you did yesterday. And that, of course, leads to an immense amount of pressure and also some internal struggle when if you wake up in the morning and you just don't have the energy to be as productive, or you just don't have the focus, or you're experiencing some brain fog, and all of a sudden you feel like you're lacking something because you can't show up and be as productive as you were yesterday, right? And so the reason for this, again, are these two different hormonal cycles. And so within the female hormonal cycle, which I said lasts approximately 28 days, you fluctuate through 4 different phases of the cycle, which of course, as your hormones drop and fall, is going to affect how you feel. It's going to affect your energy. It's going to affect your focus. It's going to affect how motivated you are to do something. It's going to affect how much energy you have to get stuff done. If you're able to focus on things for a long time, if you're feeling flighty, if you're feeling jumpy, if you're feeling brain fog, if you're feeling tired, if you're feeling energized, all of those things are affected. Okay. So all of a sudden we're like, oh, I got it. Like this pressure to show up the exact same way every single day. Like this is the producing culture. This is the productivity culture. And it is just not aligned for how you are meant to be showing up and working. Okay. So shifting into working like a woman really requires you to, number one, reclaim your body in how you're meant to show up and work, reclaim these cycles, which I will go into momentarily, and we'll break down what these 4 phases of your cycle look like and how you can use them for work and success. And it also requires you to embrace the feminine, right? There is a huge narrative that we've been conditioned within in our work culture, which states unknowingly, right? It's just kind of like a agreed upon thing that no one's really openly ever stated. But it states that the masculine energy rules the public sphere. It rules the work world. And the reason for this is because men were there first. Like if we go back hundreds of thousands of years, the men went to work, the women stayed home, the women were in charge of the domestic sphere. And so those energetics of how we show up in those spaces are really dominated by the group of people who, created those spaces. Does that make sense? So when we look at those spaces, it is a dominant masculine energy. And so we can also call the way that we've been conditioned to do success or strive for goals a masculine model of success. Okay. It is very much in this linear approach of this 9 to 5 focus time frame, and the hormonal system of the man is what it is aligned with. Okay. So of course, actually changing how you're showing up in that environment where you've been so conditioned to do it one way is going to take some time. And on top of that, because the feminine has been so rejected in this space specifically, which means any kind of time where you felt like, oh, I don't want to be in certain feminine qualities. I don't want to be too emotional. I don't want to be too feely in this space. I don't want to dress a certain way that makes me stand out. I want to be respected the same way that my male counterparts are. I want to be at eye level and equal to them. All of those things that we've thought is actually us as women changing our energetic makeup in that space in order to be more like men. Does that make sense? And of course, there was a time and place where that was necessary because we needed to compete. We wanted to create that equality. But now what it's actually doing is it's creating more burnout. It's creating more stress. It's creating more disconnect from who you really are. And it's preventing you from actually being your most productive and successful self. And serving that into the world, into your community, back into the office or the company that you work for, back into your business, right? Like you being able to show up as your best, most productive and aligned self is actually going to be of service to everyone else, okay? So really practicing reclaiming the feminine is so important when you feel like she doesn't have a space in the workplace, right? Like this part of you is just not allowed to exist there. And I actually go into this in so much depth inside my signature cyclical sacred success course, Rest for Success, because this is a vital part of actually being able to work like a woman. If you feel like this is wrong, if you feel like you're not allowed to do this, if you feel like it won't be accepted, or you don't accept it to an extent, that is going to continue to block you from actually unlocking this power and wisdom and being able to work with it to your advantage, okay? So let's talk about what this 28-day or monthly cycle for a woman like yourself looks like and how you can work with it for your success. So you have 4 phases that you go through every single month. So again, just to compare, men go through a 24-hour hormonal cycle and they have some ebbs and flows, but it's relatively consistent specifically within the workday. So they have energy to show up at the same degree every single day based on their hormonal cycle. For you, having a 28-day or monthly cycle, you have 4 phases where your energy really changes and fluctuates between these different phases. So I'm going to break this down in relation to the 4 seasons, and we're going to align each of these phases with the 4 seasons of the year, because that is going to keep it really simple, especially if you're hearing about this for the first time or you just need to refresh and run through it. I will go into more detail, or I do go into more detail inside my course, Rest for Success. So again, if you do want to start connecting with this on a deeper level, I encourage you to go check that out. You can get waitlist details and all of that good stuff below. So the 4 cycles go as following. Number 1, we have the season of spring. Spring starts us off, it kicks off the year, and spring is equivalent to the cycle of your womb cycle, known as the follicular phase. This is the phase that begins right after your period ends, okay? So you've just had the last day of your period, your bleed is over, and then we begin with the follicular phase, which is, like I said, equivalent to inner spring. During this time, as it relates to work, you're really primed to do things related to planning, mapping out a project, mapping up your upcoming month, really being innovative in terms of ideas that you have, what's coming through, starting to plan how you want to be executing on those things. But we're really like in these beginning planning stages. And we can think about the season of spring really in relation to seeds being planted, the first kind of buds starting to peek through after the long winter, okay? That is where you are at on an energetic level, really primed for doing those kind of tasks. And also that's what you want to be focusing on in your work. Then we have season number 2, which is the season of summer, right? So after spring, we go into summer, and this is the phase of your cycle within the month when you are ovulating. This is also the time when you are most fertile. So if you are wanting to make a baby, this is the time when you're going to be doing that essentially, or when it's going to happen. And so equivalently to that, or we can use that as a comparison to say like you are fertile in what you're creating. This is the phase within work where you want to be executing on things. You want to be visible. You want to be launching. You want to be getting yourself out there, selling, going to the networking events, hosting the workshops or hosting the talks, whatever it is, doing the presentation at work. You're really primed for letting yourself be seen or getting something out into the world. Moving on, we have the season of fall, which comes after ovulation, after you ovulate. And this kind of is this shift from being really externally focused to project planning and executing and creation and coming back inwards towards yourself. So as we talked about before, this masculine world of work and success, the seasons of spring and summer are actually the more masculine, energetic seasons because you're doing the things that require action taking. It's the planning and it's the executing. And most of the projects and the way that we approach work in our dominant world of success, the masculine model of success, are really just focused on those 2 phases. So we actually completely disregard the feminine energy seasons, which is fall and winter, in terms of how you're showing up to work and plan for your success. So the season of fall is related to the phase of your cycle called the luteal phase. And this is again right after you've ovulated. So you're kind of coming back towards yourself. So in this phase, you are really primed for reflection, getting into the nitty-gritty, editing, really getting down to the details. This is a great time for longer, bigger, focused work blocks, less meetings, or block your meetings out to one day or one afternoon so you can really be in your space in this focused place. Then we go into winter, and the season of winter is equivalent to the actual menstrual phase. So the bleed, the actual period. Okay. And in this phase, it is quite literally the phase of hibernation. It is regeneration. And this is what is also known to be the fertile void. And the fertile void is this beautiful theme, this beautiful concept that states when there is nothingness, that is actually when there is the most potential for something new to come through, right? So when we have that hibernation in the winter, when the snow, for example, is covering all of the fields, nothing is meant to grow. But the soil at the same time is also regenerating. There are things happening beneath the earth that we don't even see. And this is when you're primed for ideas to come through, where you're making connections about what is really important to you, like aha moments can come through, and you can then use these to activate your innovation and your planning again once you step back into inner spring, once your period phase is over. Does that make sense? So those are the 4 phases. And like I said, they align with the 4 seasons. And I like to take it one step further because, again, this is really about aligning your cyclical nature with your success. And I have created 4 phases for actually mapping out and planning your success. And the 4 phases are innovation, illumination, culmination, and regeneration. And I'm going to be talking about those more. I talk about them in Cyclical Ascension, which is a mini course workshop that I have. And I'm also going to be talking about those in the upcoming Cyclical Flow Planning Workshop, which is a free event, the only one that I do that's free inside the O Flow Collective, which is also a free space to really start connecting on revolutionizing how you work in order to start tapping into a more aligned way of work to create this sacred success. So here are the 3 ways for you to start tapping into this woman goddess energy, this cyclical wisdom, and work like a woman. Number 1 is to follow your 28-day hormonal cycle, or if you don't have a menstrual cycle, so if you are on hormonal birth control of any kind, or you are in perimenopause or menopause, what you can follow is the cycle of the moon, because the moon actually follows these exact same 4 cycles as well. I'm also going to talk more about that inside the Cyclical Flow Planning Workshop. I talk about that in great depth inside Rest for Success, and a lot of the ladies in there actually don't have their own menstrual cycles anymore or are on hormonal birth control as well, a few of them. So that is an option for you. Number 2 is to ditch the 9-to-5 hyper productivity that you expect from yourself and start instead tuning into working with these codes, working with how you are primed energetically to work for maximum productivity, maximum focus, maximum clarity. And number 3 is to really tune into your intuition as you go through this process, because this is going to really be unique to you. You have a unique experience of how you experience things in your body, how things feel for you, and what desires you even want to be magnetizing. What are your goals? And you're going to then have a very specific process for setting this up in relation to your specific goals. Does that make sense? So your intuition is really important here. And this is another one of those things that has been really shoved aside in the work world, which is, don't listen to your intuition, only logic matters. And the intuition is actually a super powerful way to get in alignment with how you're meant to be working and how you want to be executing on your goal. So again, that's something I go into shifting with you. We actually release any kind of shame, trauma, limiting beliefs around your intuition so that you can start activating it for your success. So the key here, though, those are your 3 steps, but the key here is to be ready, to be able to tune into yourself right now and be like, I'm ready to go against the status quo, because that is what working like a woman is going to require you to do. Right? The system is not set up for you to work this way, but the more you harness it for yourself, the more we can collectively shift the system. And that is why I call this the work revolution. That is why claiming this revolution for yourself and how you are working is going to start to affect the world at large. Okay. And this is, like I said at the beginning, really my zone of genius because I have been in that space. I have been in the overworking. I've been in that masculine model. I have loved the masculine model because I thought that that's what I needed to do, but it was not serving me. And this has completely changed the game for me. This is how I run my business. This is how I work with my clients. And I'm so friggin' passionate about being able to relay this information to you as well for you to activate that in your life. So your next steps, number one, is to join me for the free cyclical flow planning workshop because that's going to be a great little taster, especially if you want to dive into this in a little bit more detail, understand it better, refresh if you've already been doing this. Maybe you do this in terms of, like I said, your eating cycles or just in terms of, taking care of your body, some self-care practices, but you're like, okay, how do I plan for this? Like, I like those 4 phases for planning my goals and my success. How do I do this? I will be giving you more information there as well. And then I encourage you to get on the waitlist for my signature Sacred Success course, Rest for Success, because this is really the foundation for how you work like a woman. This is how you reignite your flow. This is how you tap into your cyclical nature for creating that sacred success. So all of the links for that are in the description below. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Wherever you're listening to this podcast, please remember to like, subscribe, leave a comment, leave a rating or review, follow along, share it on with a bestie or a friend or a colleague who you think would appreciate it. And I'll see you back here next time. Are you ready to unlock a whole new level of success? One that's aligned with your natural rhythm, overflowing with energy, and magnetic to the opportunities you desire? Introducing my signature Sacred Success course, Rest for Success, the transformative course that's redefining how women approach achievement, revolutionize work, and create sacred success. Imagine embracing a revolutionary approach to work, one that empowers you to slow down, rest, and harness limitless energy. Discover the secret codes that make you magnetic to success and guide you in working with, not against, your natural cycles, your womb wisdom, and your body. Join me on a journey that embraces rest as the ultimate strategy for success. Why? Well, because we've been so caught up in the hustle and striving, we have created work cycles that are only focused on output and productivity. So the purpose and intention and power and magic of this course is to bring back the entire cycle of how you are into how you are working. And that is where rest comes in. It's more than just self-care. It's more than just slowing down. It's about honoring the full cycle of creation for your creation so that you can unlock a cyclical blueprint for success, heal your burnout and trauma around working and succeeding, and step into a life of freedom frequency where you are the flow CEO. If you're a woman ready to revolutionize your approach to work, to unleash your full energy potential, and to magnetize success with ease, Rest for Success is your ultimate guide. Click the link below to join the waitlist for extra goodies or enroll now and become part of the movement that is changing the way we define and achieve success. Are you ready to embrace restful achievement and step into a life of limitless potential? Then join me inside Rest for Success. Visit oliviaheine.com/rest for success and let's revolutionize your success story together.